sheets of paper, and I'm not sure that my accent is going to be as good as for the previous ones. But, first of all, dear friends and comrades, thank you very much for inviting me tonight. Thank you to all from Gauche members who have been organizing this event. And of course, thanks to our guests and speakers, Louise and Derek and Romain, thank you very much. I'm really hit tonight by the fact, as Romain said, that it really feels good to hear the same words and references in another language. Feel more numerous by this time. And it's especially the case because I really mean it all the more that here in London, so you are at the front line, because alas, we know that England showed us the way. And in 1979 already, the Clash castigated Margaret Thatcher's Ice Age, rejected symbols from the past, the nuclear era with the accident at 3 Mile Island the year before, and also calling upon the youth to wake up with these words: come out of the cupboard, all you boys and girls. Yeah. And well, today all Europe has become a real austerity lab where the people's sovereignty was hijacked and public life became depoliticized. All the more so in Greece, of course, where the Greek government looks to fill its coffers by selling everything they can, brutally closing down public TV and radio channels, but also leaving Qatari funds to massively invest in its gold mines and in its banks, opening up its sports capital to Chinese investors, selling out even its islands, 6 of which have just been sold to the Emir of Qatar for a few million euros. At home, in France, unemployment has been repeatedly breaking its records for more than 21 consecutive months. And this so-called socialist government is implementing the European Fiscal Compact, dubbed Mercosur Treaty, and grants 20 billion euros in tax credit to corporations for competitiveness without demanding anything in return. This government, in fact, is doing 3 times worse than Nicolas Sarkozy did when he cut 19 billion euros over the course of 2 austerity plans. In comparison, François Hollande has already managed to cut down the 2013 budget by 37 billion euros. And a second plan, called Competitiveness Plan, will take the total public spending cuts up to 60 billion euros by 2017. So until now, the southern European countries were the ones suffering the neoliberal assaults from the IMF, the WTO, or the World Bank. From now on, no one can escape anymore. What the various austerity plans command is not only the reduction of public deficits. This comes with repeated attacks from the European Union against public services. These public services, which they consider to have an outrageously monopolistic status, in total, of course, contradiction with the sacrosanct, free and undistorted competition agenda. This results in the privatization of fundamental services such as energy, railways, education and healthcare, which are forced to compete. This also results in the degradation of working conditions, the abandonment of unprofitable missions, fares increase, and leads to a search for the socially and environmentally lowest bidder. We may have repaired the Bolkestein directive, but the directive on services still remains. And our public services are slowly but surely perverted into services, as they say, of general economic interest that we can entrust private operators with. Unfortunately, a private operator in the capitalist system has no interest in defending the general interest. It has an interest in making profit. However, education, health, energy or water supplies are not commodities like any other, as they just said. And the neoliberal discourse has one goal only: reinforce that wealth hoarding, all owning oligarchy in control of the means of production, information and decision. Global corporation shareholders, leading media moguls and political leaders can get enough conflicts of interest and revolving doors to the detriment of workers and citizens, all those men and women who can only sell their workforce and for whom public services are sometimes the only defense left standing between poverty and destitution. So, of course, public services must remain the property of those who own nothing, because at the end of the month, it is unacceptable to have to choose between eating, keeping warm, or treating an illness. But the dominant discourse is also built precisely in the way that discourages them from fighting back and from changing the way things are. Because if, as they say, if we can't do anything about it, because there is supposedly no better solution than the one dictated by the market, so there is room neither for politics nor social struggles. The conduct of public affairs is no longer the business of citizens, as it has been confiscated by the so-called experts in economics and finance. So in short, Margaret Thatcher is dead, but Tina is alive and well. This is why it is more important than ever that we take on two major tasks. The first one is to demonstrate that another way of doing politics is possible. And the second one is to link this project to a network of radical and internationalist forces on the left. And when I say radical, I don't mean an appearance of radicalism or just postures. I mean to take the word literally and to go to the root cause: capitalism, neoliberal and productivist policies that have led us to an economic, social and environmental disaster. Einstein said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them." So let's be radical indeed. Both the social crisis and the environmental emergency were caused by the all-embracing, profit-seeking ideology, by an economy that seeks production for the sake of production and that forgets human needs. In the left, we have done a great deal in terms of system analysis, and I'm not going to repeat these points today. Our positions and our presence in struggles have proved our determination to not bow down and to be on the side of those who resist. But breaking away with the system implies that we need to trigger popular involvement around a rallying project made of hope, good living, happy days and love, as said Remen. We name it Ecosocialism. Building this project is thus an essential political investment for the future of our left internationally, so that the anger that we can all feel growing in our countries does not tip over into hatred. Gramsci said, "The old world is dying away and the new world struggles to come forth. Now is the time of monsters." And that's what we're doing. By developing this new project of ecosocialism, we're fighting monsters. And a beautiful momentum has been achieved, I must say, in the last few months around this project to wage the cultural battle and decolonize the imaginary, as we say in France, to show that the alternative exists that it is painted red and green, and that we know how to implement it. We know in France that such an alternative will not come from the government. Even those who wanted to believe it now realize that our government that claims to be socialist and green is neither one nor the other. So at a time when too many politicians don't know their left from their right, when parties and political actions face a huge crisis, the Front Gauche stands out as the main political force nowadays bearing this alternative project. And it is urgent to show that this strong left exists, one that hasn't resigned, one that is able to federate around a radically different society project. Radically different because ecosocialism offers a new synthesis in the left, having learned its lessons from the past and assimilated the new challenges of the present. Socialism has too often, I would say after Derek's speech, ignored the environmental dimension of its emancipatory project and hasn't been able to foresee that the limitation of natural resources would lead us straight into a war. As for ecology, it has too much of a tendency to forget the economic analysis of the systems and to look at social struggles from a distance. Our own project of ecosocialism is founded on political ecology and on the rejection of green capitalism. We regard it as a hyphen between social and environmental struggles. It is the union between a socialism freed from productivism and a fiercely anti-capitalist ecology. And it is not a sideshow to our policies, because, and Louise explained that very well, the very conditions of human life on Earth are at stake. Climate change, loss of biodiversity, pollution of the air, water and soils, depletion, of course, of natural resources. We must never forget that we have only one biosphere that knows no borders. We saw it with the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico or in Fukushima. Decisions made in one place on the planet have repercussions everywhere else. However, capitalism and its productivism have interests that are contrary to this conservation, to produce ever more, to sell ever more in order to get ever more profit. Therefore, we get ever more pollution, predation on natural resources, and ever more social exploitation. And social democracy failed to understand this new challenge and is today in a dead end. So the Parti de Gauche in France has launched public meetings for ecosocialism throughout France, with the first conference that was held in Paris on the 1st of December 2012, along with our comrades from the Front de Gauche, of course, but also along with many public figures, of which Michael Lowy, we were talking about, but also René Ramirez from Ecuador, with whom I have had the privilege to work about the Yasuni ITT project, and also organizations, trade unions, and different journals. And given this first edition's success, we decided to keep it as an ongoing process, led by a committee supported by many local and international initiatives. And a first manifesto was subjected to debate and was collectively amended, mulled over and scored, and we ended up synthesizing this with Jean-Luc Mélenchon, pencil in hand, to reach these 18 theses for ecosocialism. It is now being translated into Spanish, Greek, Italian, English, German, Portuguese, Polish, Arabic, and Japanese. And it will we will soon be able to send it to all our worldwide counterparts and friends. We are already in contact with the Ecosocialist network that appeared in Quebec, with the Ecosocialist appeal of Geneva also, and our manifesto was already presented and discussed in Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, in Rome, Spain, and soon it will be in Portugal, Hungary, and in Brussels. In a nutshell, these 18 theses of this manifesto, they state mostly things that have been explained this evening, which is quite good news for us. So, first, of course, the necessity to establish a new economy in the service of human progress, to produce differently, to establish what we call the green rule as a compass instead of their authoritarian golden rule, to conduct, of course, the citizens' revolution by breaking the bonds of European treaties and by engaging in an internationalist combat. Our manifesto, in fact, demonstrates once more that if they don't know how to, we do. What remains to be done is to convince the majority, but we have already succeeded in transforming the old productivist left's concrete and electricity face, in short, that left, which still believed in the production, growth, consumption, circular pattern. Today we know that the recovery of our economic growth, GDP-wise, is not only an economical, unverified hypothesis, it is neither desirable nor sustainable from the point of view of our natural resources and ecosystem. We also have managed, I think, to revert in an increasing number of minds the traditional logic of supply and demand, because this is just what anti-productivism means. Just stop reasoning in terms of products to sell on the market, where it doesn't matter what you produce, where and how you produce it. Instead, start with what people, not shareholders, actually need. We also have shown that there is wealth, and the measures we propose in this manifesto can redistribute that wealth as well as fund the eco-socialist investments we need. In the first year alone, our counter budget can generate an extra 130 billion euros. Here's enough to invest in wealth redistribution and in the abolition of social insecurity, in an environmental planning program and family farming, in the creation of a public sector for energy, in renewable energies, phasing out of nuclear power, and in railway plans. We have proven that relocation of some activities and the ecological transition would create numerous jobs, as opposed to the disastrous economic and social laissez-faire. The increase in the price of crude oil alone could destroy 100,000 jobs in the car-making industry within 5 to 10 years. So the real question is whether we let the market go on, or whether we show a sense of anticipation and political will. This is what we, the Frontdoor Gauche, call environmental planning, a long-term planning publicly administered and controlled by the citizens. So the relocation of activities and industrial redevelopment on a social and environmental basis, the conversion of our production tools and a greater redistribution of work, an interventionist policy, all this could generate several million jobs. A transition towards family farming would in itself create 400,000 jobs. According to a study by our National Center for Scientific Research, energy transition could create 630,000 jobs by 2030 based on the negawatt scenario. This will not happen, though, without strong links with the working world. And let's be honest, decades of environmentalist talks pitching one against the other have done some damage. We don't recognize ourselves in that kind of ecology, the kind that blames individuals but not the capitalist mode of production. That ecology that really relies on the so-called sustainable development departments of multinational corporations such as Veolia, Total or E.ON. On the contrary, the great novelty, I think, of our approach and its success is to always involve workers through the socialization of the means of production, the creation of cooperatives, and an extension of workers' rights. Just like we organized a big meeting in March 2012 during the campaign with Jean-Luc Mélenchon, with striking workers to share ideas around their takeover projects, which included environmental planning. Because the workers are the ones who operate the machinery, who know the tools, who have the skills and training. The ecological conversion won't happen without them, even less against them. And here is our challenge, and well, we are quite well on the way. So to conclude, we now have a project, Ecosocialism, a platform with environmental planning, and a strategy that is the citizens' revolution, which means everyone, everywhere, reclaiming the political life. So the alternative is becoming possible. It's within reach. Let's grab it.
I think we're going to have a little break now because that was a lot of information. I hope you liked it. Please come back, don't go away. There's going to be a Q&A session in, should we say, about 15-20 minutes? Okay?
Can I ask a question? Because I don't want to stay on.
No, you have to come back.
No, I want to say something, okay? I believe that the problem is man, as in XY chromosome, and I feel very happy to see 4 women.
Very good, yeah.